The observation room was silent. Huge curved windows looked down at the blue planet below. From far away, Earth looked calm, beautiful, and weak. The alien fleet floated in space like dark shadows. They had been watching this planet for many cycles. Humans were new to the galactic map. Small, loud, always fighting among themselves. Easy prey. That is what the council believed. Inside the room, many alien officers stood around a floating screen. The screen showed a group of humans sitting together. They were inside a small metal room on their planet. The humans were eating. Commander Refkael leaned forward. His eyes were narrow. His skin changed color slightly, a sign of curiosity. "Increase visual clarity," he said. The screen zoomed in. The humans were holding food in their hands. Simple food. Meat, bread. Something hot was steaming. Their mouths moved as they ate. Their hands were steady. Calm. No fear. No panic. Then the system auto-adjusted. The camera focused on their eyes. And that was when everything changed. One of the scientists made a low clicking sound. "Commander, their pupils." The room became tense. On the screen, the humans' pupils were changing. Slowly, smoothly, growing larger, darker, not randomly, not because of low light. Refkael's voice became sharp. "Explain." The scientist swallowed. "Pupil dilation normally happens due to light changes or fear. Are they afraid?" Refkael asked. The scientist shook his head. "No, Commander. Heart rate stable. Breathing calm. Muscle tension relaxed." Another officer stepped closer to the screen. "Then why are their pupils expanding?" Silence followed. The answer came slowly, carefully. "Focus," the scientist said. "Predator focus." That word echoed in the room. Predator. Refkael stared at the screen again. The humans were laughing now. One of them picked up a piece of meat. The camera zoomed further. Teeth. Flat teeth. No sharp fangs like known predators. No claws. Soft skin. Weak-looking bodies. And yet, their eyes told a different story. Run comparison. Refkael ordered. The system changed the screen. New images appeared beside the humans. Known predators from across the galaxy. Large. Violent. Fast. Their pupil behavior was shown. The match percentage climbed. 30%. 50%. 70%. 85%. The room froze. The scientist whispered, "Commander, human pupils respond the same way when observing food as apex predators do when observing prey." Refkael felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. Humans were not supposed to be predators. They had no natural weapons, no thick armor, no venom, no night vision, no claws, and yet their eyes. Refkael raised the claw slowly, paused the feed. The image froze on one human, a young one, soft face, small frame, holding food close to their mouth, pupils wide, fully dilated. Refkael turned to his officers. "How long have we observed them?" 3 planetary cycles, an officer replied. "And this behavior?" The scientist checked the data. "Always present, Commander. When hunting animals, when cooking food, even when watching images of meals." "Images?" Refkael asked. "Yes. Humans create visual records of food. They watch them. Their pupils react even then." That made the room colder. Refkael slowly circled the screen. "They react as predators without the hunt." "Yes," the scientist said. "They do not need to chase. They plan. They prepare. They wait." Another officer spoke, nervous. "Commander, should we update their threat level?" Refkael didn't answer immediately. He looked back at Earth. This planet had storms, earthquakes, fire mountains, dangerous oceans, countless lethal creatures, and humans lived among all of it, not as prey, but as masters. "Show me their history," Refkael said. The screen changed again. Images moved fast. Early humans, primitive tools, fire, spears, groups surrounding animals far larger than themselves. "They hunted like this?" Refkael asked. "Yes," the historian replied. They use teamwork, traps, endurance. Humans can run long distances. They follow prey until it collapses. RefKL's eyes widen slightly. They don't attack fast. No, they exhaust. The footage showed a massive animal falling. Humans closing in, not rushing, walking, calm, their eyes focused, pupils wide, predator focus. RefKL felt a deep unease. And now they farm, the historian said. They raise animals, control food supply, kill without chase. Kill, RefKL repeated quietly. The room fell silent again. One officer tried to laugh it off. Commander, many species consume meat. It does not mean. Show me their reaction to danger. RefKL interrupted. The system switched again. Humans in combat. Loud weapons. Explosions. Chaos. The camera zoomed on faces. Fear was there, but something else too. Focus. Eyes locked. Pupils expanding again. Not panic. Calculation. They remain predators even under threat, the scientist said softly. RefKL clenched his claw. They fight among themselves? Yes. And yet survive? Yes. And grow stronger? Yes. RefKL turned away from the screen. His voice was low. A species that hunts itself and still thrives is not weak. No one disagreed. The alarm chimed suddenly. A new data stream appeared. Commander, an officer said quickly, human deep space sensors have activated. RefKL snapped back. They detected us? Not visually, but they sensed gravitational distortion. RefKL felt something cold crawl through him. They can't see us, the officer continued, but they know something is there. On the screen, humans were now shown in another room. Military uniforms. Serious faces. One human pointed at a screen. Their eyes narrowed, pupils dilated. Predator focus activated. They are not afraid, the scientist whispered. They are hunting, RefKL finished. For the first time in his long service, Commander RefKL hesitated. Humans were not screaming, not running, not praying. They were watching, calculating, waiting. RefKL gave a quiet order. Increased distance. Silent mode. The fleet began to drift back slowly. But on the human screen, one of them smiled. Just slightly, as if they knew. And far away on a small blue planet, a predator species looked up at the dark sky, with wide pupils. The alien fleet moved slowly away from Earth, silent and careful. No lights, no signals. Commander RefKL stood in the control chamber, watching the blue planet grow smaller on the main screen. His mind was not calm. The image of human eyes stayed with him. Wide pupils. Focused. Alert. Not the look of prey. The look of something that hunts. Around him, officers worked quietly. No one joked. No one spoke loudly. The confidence they once had about conquering Earth was gone, replaced by something new. Uncertainty. Maintain observation distance, RefKL said. No active scans. Yes, Commander, the navigation officer replied. The fleet obeyed. They drifted into a position far enough to feel safe, but close enough to watch. Earth still filled part of the screen. Clouds moved slowly. Sunlight touched the oceans. It looked peaceful, too peaceful. RefKL turned to the science team. I want more data. Everything about human eyes. Their brains. Their reactions. The lead scientist nodded. Already working on it. Commander. Screens lit up with charts and numbers. Lines moved. Data streamed. The scientist pointed at one graph. Human pupils are controlled by both light and emotion. But unlike most species, food triggers the same response as danger or threat. RefKL folded his claws behind his back. Meaning, the scientist said slowly. Humans prepare for action when they eat. Their bodies remember hunting. RefKL's expression darkened, even though they no longer hunt directly. Yes, the instinct remains. Another officer spoke. Commander, if they are predators, why do they look so weak? RefKL looked at him. Because predators do not need to look strong when they are smart. The officer fell silent. On another screen, a new feed appeared. Human cities. Tall structures. Lights at night. Millions of humans moving, living, working. So many of them. Too many for a simple prey species. They are social, the scientist said. Highly social. Pack-based. Like hunting packs, RefKL replied. Yes. The scientist changed the feed. Humans in small groups. Families. Soldiers. Workers. Athletes. The same eye reaction appeared again and again when focused, when competing, when planning. Always the pupils. Always the focus. RefKL felt a strange pressure in his chest. His species had conquered dozens of worlds. None of them had shown this combination. Weak bodies, strong minds, predator instincts buried deep under civilization. Commander, an officer called out, tense. Human communication spike detected. RefKL turned sharply. Explain. They are transmitting across their planet. Military channels, scientific channels, civil networks. Why? RefKL asked. The officer hesitated. They believe they're not alone. Silence hit the room. RefKL slowly returned his gaze to Earth. They don't see us, he said, but they feel us. Yes, Commander. Show me their discussion. The screen shifted. Humans sat around a table. Serious faces. One spoke, while others listened. Their words were translated instantly. Unknown gravitational readings. One human said, not natural. Another replied, it could be dark matter fluctuation. A third shook his head. No, it's moving. Controlled. The camera zoomed in on their faces. Eyes narrowing. Pupils expanding. Predator focus. They are connecting the pattern, the scientist whispered. RefKL's claws tightened. They are hunters who sense something hiding. Yes. Commander. Another officer said nervously, should we prepare defense protocols? RefKL did not answer immediately. He watched the humans talk. Plan. Debate. They argued, but they listened. They disagreed, but they moved forward. They are not panicking, he said finally. No, the scientist agreed. They are analyzing. A new feed appeared. Humans launching machines into space. Small ones. Satellites. Probes. They are increasing observation. The officer said. How long until they see us? RefKL asked. The scientist calculated quickly. If we remain this close, weeks. Maybe days. RefKL felt the weight of command settle heavier on him. The council had ordered him to assess Earth as a potential conquest. He had expected weakness, fear, chaos. Instead, he found patience, control, predators that learned to wait. Pull back further, RefKL ordered, edge of their detection range. The fleet obeyed again, engines whispering through space. But even as distance grew, the human response did not fade. On the screen, humans adjusted their instruments, changed settings, improved sensitivity. They adapt fast, the scientist said. RefKL nodded. Too fast. Another feed appeared. Humans watching animals. A human child looked at a meal on a table. The child smiled, pupils wide. The scientist froze the image. Commander, he said quietly, this is important. RefKL leaned closer. This is not training, the scientist continued. This is instinct passed through generations. They do not teach this. They are born with it. RefKL stared at the child's eyes. Innocent face. Predator focus. A dangerous combination. Commander, the communications officer interrupted, voice tight. We intercepted a classified human message. RefKL turned. Play it. The room filled with a human voice. Calm. Controlled. We may not see them yet, the human said, but something is watching us. If it's hostile, it will test us. If it's cautious, it's already afraid. RefKL felt chill. The human continued. Predators hide. Prey runs. Whatever is out there, it's hiding. The message ended. Silence followed. They are profiling us, the scientist said. Refkale exhaled slowly. And they are not wrong. For the first time, the alien commander felt exposed. Another officer tried to sound confident. Commander! Even if they are predators, their technology is primitive compared to ours. Refkale turned sharply. So was ours once. The officer said nothing. Refkale looked at the stars. Power is not only weapons, he said. It is how fast a species learns under pressure. He gestured to the human screens. They learn very fast. On Earth, humans continued to work. They shared data. They built theories. They prepared quietly. No public panic. No screaming crowds. Just planning. In the alien chamber, a warning light flashed. Commander, the sensor officer said, voice strained. Human telescopes just aligned toward our sector. Refkale's eyes widened. They shouldn't be able to. They adjusted for gravitational lensing. The officer finished. The screen flickered. A faint shadow appeared. Not clear, not sharp, but there. Human instruments had found something. They see a shadow, the scientist whispered. Enough, Refkale said firmly. Emergency protocol. The fleet shifted instantly, jumping further into deep space. The shadow vanished from human screens. On Earth, humans stared at blank data. One of them smiled slowly. They moved, the human said. That confirms it. The camera zoomed in. Pupils dilated. Predator focus. Back in deep space, Refkale felt something he had not felt in many cycles. Fear. Not fear of weapons. Fear of a species that noticed a hunt and did not run. He opened a secure channel to the council. Assessment update, he said. Humans are not prey. A pause followed. What are they? The council asked. Refkale looked once more at the distant blue. They are patient predators, he replied. And they just learned they are not alone. The channel closed. Refkale remained still, staring at the stars, knowing one truth with absolute clarity. The hunt had not begun, but it would. And when it did, humans would not be the ones running. The stars were quiet again. Too quiet. Commander Refkale, still alone, in the darkened command chamber. The fleet had jumped far from Earth, beyond human sensors, beyond their strongest telescopes. Officially, the mission was still observation. Unofficially, everyone on the ship knew the truth. They had been seen. Not clearly, not fully, but enough. Refkale replayed the last human transmission in his mind. Predators hide. Prey runs. The human had said it calmly, like a fact learned long ago. That sentence stayed like a wound that would not close. An officer entered the chamber carefully. Commander, she said, long-range sensors are stable. No pursuit. Refkale nodded. They wouldn't chase blindly. The officer hesitated. Because they are patient? Yes, Refkale said. Because they wait. On Earth, the waiting had already begun. Deep under the planet's surface, in rooms protected by layers of rock and metal, humans gathered. Scientists, military leaders, engineers, not politicians. This meeting was not for speeches. It was for survival. A large screen showed data points. Strange readings. Small distortions in space. Tiny changes in gravity that should not exist. They move when we looked, one scientist said. That confirms intelligence. A military officer crossed his arms. Or fear. Another shook her head. Fear and intelligence are not separate. The room went quiet. A young analyst spoke up. Whatever they are, they didn't attack. That doesn't mean they won't, the officer replied. No, the analyst said calmly, but it means they are studying us. Like we study animals before deciding how dangerous they are. Several people looked at him. You think we are the animals? Someone asked. The analyst met their eyes. I think we are the unknown. Silence followed. Then one woman spoke. She was older, calm, experienced. Unknowns are dangerous, she said. Not because they are strong, but because they surprise you. On another screen, a slow-motion video played. A human eye, Pupils expanding while watching food. Then another clip, a soldier under fire. Pupils expanding again. Same reaction. Different situations. A scientist pointed. This is the key. Focus, not panic. So they focus under threat, the military officer said. Good. That's useful. The scientist shook his head. No, that's terrifying, because it means fear does not stop them. It sharpens them. The room absorbed that. On the alien ship, a similar discussion was happening. Ref KL stood before his officers. Humans have adjusted their sensors faster than expected, he said. They are learning our movement patterns. One officer asked, Commander, should we disable their satellites? A simple strike. No, Ref KL snapped. The room froze. We do not strike, he continued. Not yet. Not unless ordered. Why? Another officer asked. Ref KL turned slowly. Because humans are watching for that exact moment. They want confirmation of hostility. And if they get it, they will respond. Ref KL said, not immediately, but completely. The officers exchanged uneasy looks. Ref KL activated a new feed. It showed human activity on Earth. Shipyards, laboratories, factories, all running day and night. They are not preparing to run, he said. They are preparing to adapt. A scientist beside him spoke softly. Commander, humans have begun experimenting with artificial gravity sensors. Ref KL's eyes narrowed. Already? Yes. They are crude, but improving. How long until they can track us again? Ref KL asked. The scientist hesitated. Months. Maybe less. Ref KL looked at the stars. Too fast. On Earth, the mood was strange. The public did not know the truth. Only fragments. Only rumors. Scientists spoke carefully. Governments released calm statements. No panic, but something changed in the air. People looked up more often. Artists painted darker skies. Writers wrote stories about watchers in the dark. Children asked questions their parents could not answer. Humanity felt eyes on its back, and it did not like it. In one underground facility, a group of engineers worked on a new device. It was small, simple, built from existing technology. This won't find them, one engineer said. No, another replied, but it will tell us if space moves when it shouldn't. The device hummed to life. A line on a screen trembled, then steadied, then trembled again. The engineer smiled slowly. Something's there. Back on the alien ship, alarm stayed silent. No sudden movement. No attack. Just waiting. Ref KL reviewed human history again. Wars. Disasters. Plagues. Near-extinction events. They should have destroyed themselves, an officer said. Yes, Ref KL replied. Many times. But they didn't. No. Ref KL paused on an image. Humans rebuilding cities after destruction, sharing food after disaster, fighting among themselves, then uniting against a greater threat. They turn on each other, he said, but only until something bigger appears. That's common, the officer said. Ref KL shook his head. No, what is uncommon is how fast they switch. Another alarm chimed softly. Commander, the sensor officer said, human probes are being launched. Long range. Passive. No signals. Ref KL felt his chest tighten. They are casting nets. Yes. How many? Hundreds. Ref KL closed his eyes briefly. They don't chase blindly. They surround. On Earth, a military leader watched the probe launches on a screen. We're not trying to find them, he said. We're trying to limit where they can hide. A scientist nodded. Predators flush prey into the open. The leader corrected him. Or predators force other predators to reveal themselves. Back in space, the alien fleet adjusted again, jumping short distances, changing vectors, avoiding patterns. But each movement taught humans something new. Commander, the scientist said quietly, every time we move, they learn. Ref KL knew. And if we stop, an officer asked, they will test us. Raquel replied. They will push boundaries. As if on cue, another human transmission was intercepted, not directed at the aliens. Just a discussion. We should send a signal, one human voice said. No, another replied. If they're watching, silence tells them we're calm. But silence can also look like weakness. A pause. The first mistake was small, almost invisible. That was what made it dangerous. Commander Raquel noticed it during a routine review. One of the fleet support ships adjusted its position by a fraction of a degree. The move followed protocol. The calculations were correct. The engines were quiet. But the timing was wrong. Raquel stared at the movement log. Why did Ship 12 adjust course? An officer checked quickly. Minor gravitational drift. Commander, within acceptable limits. Raquel did not respond right away. His instincts, sharpened by many campaigns, felt a quiet warning. Show me the human probe positions at that exact moment, he said. The screen shifted. Hundreds of tiny human machines floated in space, invisible to the naked eye, but when the timeline synced, one probe changed orientation. Just one. It should not have reacted. The signal was too weak. The movement too subtle. Raquel's chest tightened. They noticed, he said quietly. The officer frowned. That's not possible. The margin. Humans do not need certainty, Raquel interrupted. They act on patterns. The room fell silent. On Earth, the room was loud. Run it again, a scientist said. The data replayed. A thin line on the screen curved slightly, barely visible, but it was there. That's not random, another scientist said. A military analyst leaned forward. Say it clearly. The scientist swallowed. Something reacted to us. The room exploded with voices. Distance? Vector? Could it be debris? No, debris doesn't correct course. The lead scientist raised a hand. Enough. This is not proof, but it is evidence. Of what? Someone asked. That whatever is out there is careful. A quiet voice from the back spoke. Careful predators are the worst kind. The room slowly went quiet again. Back in space, Raquel ordered immediate action. All ships, randomized microadjustments. No patterns. No repeated vectors. Yes, Commander. The fleet obeyed, but Raquel knew the truth. Random to machines was still logic. And humans were very good at finding logic. On Earth, humans did not celebrate. They did not announce discoveries. They did not send messages into space. They did something far more dangerous. They stayed quiet. Funding was moved in silence. Projects were renamed. Research was hidden inside unrelated programs. Civilian technology quietly merged with military systems. To the public, nothing changed. To the predators beneath the surface, everything did. A new device was completed in an underground lab. It did not send signals. It did not scan actively. It listened, not with sound, with space itself. When the device turned on, the room felt colder. A line on the screen flickered, then stabilized, then flickered again. One engineer smiled, but not happily. It's still there. On the alien ship, tension grew. Commander, the science officer said, human detection resolution has improved by 11%. In how long? Raquel asked. 3 of their days. Raquel closed his eyes briefly. Too fast. They are learning from every move we make, an officer said. Yes, Raquel replied, and we are teaching them. Another officer spoke carefully. Commander, what if we stop completely? Raquel opened his eyes. Then they will probe us. As if summoned by his words, a new alert chimed. Human probe cluster approaching our last known vector. The sensor officer reported. Raquel stared at the display. The probes moved slowly, carefully, like fingers feeling through darkness. They are testing the space we abandoned, he said. They think we might still be there, the scientist added. No, Raquel corrected. They think we might return. On Earth, a strategist watched the probe movements. We're not chasing, he said. We're shaping the space. A scientist nodded. If they move, we learn. If they don't, we learn. The strategist smiled thinly. Either way, we learn. That word echoed across space. Learn. Ref KAL gathered his senior officers. We must assume humans will reach partial visual confirmation within one of their years. The officers shifted uneasily. 1 year? One asked. That's impossible. So was everything else about them? Rethel replied. Another officer spoke. Commander, the Council may not accept continued withdrawal. Ref KL looked at him. Then the Council does not understand humans. What do you understand? The officer pressed. Ref KL paused. I understand that they are not preparing for war, he said slowly. They are preparing for contact. That confused the room. Contact? Someone asked. They haven't sent a signal. Exactly, Rekel said. They are waiting to know who they are dealing with before speaking. On Earth, the debate continued. If they're hostile, silence give them time, a general argued. And if they're cautious, a scientist replied, silence tells them we are controlled. A younger officer spoke up. Predators don't roar before striking. They watch. The room fell silent. A decision was made. No messages, no threats, no greetings, just observation. Back in space, a junior officer approached Ref KL privately. Commander, are humans afraid? Ref KL considered the question carefully. Yes, he said, but fear does not control them. Then what does? Ref KL looked at the distant stars. Curiosity and pride. The officer swallowed. That's worse. Yes, Ref KL agreed. Another human experiment succeeded. A probe detected a slight energy echo. Not enough to locate the fleet, but enough to confirm technology beyond Earth. The data was locked down instantly. One scientist leaned back, exhausted. They're real. A military leader nodded. Then this changes everything. No, the scientist replied quietly. It confirms what we already felt. Above Earth, humans launch more machines. Not weapons, observers. The sky grew crowded with silent watchers. In deep space, Ref KL watched the map grow tighter. More probes, less empty space. They are boxing us in, an officer said. No, Ref KL replied. They are mapping the hunt. A message arrived from the Council. Status update required, it read. Ref KL took a long breath before replying. Humans are advancing without aggression, he said. Any hostile action will unify them fully. The Council responded coldly. Unification is inevitable. Ref KL clenched his claws. Yes, but timing matters. The reply came slower this time. Continue observation. No engagement for now. Ref KL ended the channel. He felt no relief. On Earth, a scientist stared at an image of the stars. They're still hiding, he said. A general replied, Predators hide until they decide. The scientist smiled faintly. Or until they are ready to be seen. The general looked at him. Which one do you think it is? The scientist did not answer. That night, across Earth, people dreamed of eyes in the dark, of being watched, of standing still while something waited. They did not wake in fear. They woke alert, focused. Ref KL stood alone again, watching the blue planet. Humans were closing the distance, not with ships, not with weapons, but with understanding. And understanding was the most dangerous weapon of all. For the first time, Ref KL realized something terrifying. The moment of first contact would not be chosen by the stars. It would be chosen by humans. And when that moment came, they would already know where to look. The first human message was never meant to be heard. It was not a greeting. It was not a threat. It was not even directed at space. It was a test. Deep inside a quiet research facility, a group of humans gathered around a simple console. No grand room. No flags. No speeches. Just people who understood one thing very clearly. If something was watching them, it was listening. The signal was small, almost harmless. A tight burst of data wrapped inside natural space noise. To any normal scan, it looked like background static. Nothing important. But hidden inside that noise was a pattern. A pattern only an intelligent observer would notice. On the alien flagship, Commander Rethkale froze. "Replay that," he said quietly. The science officer complied. The signal appeared again. Weak, buried, almost clever enough to be ignored. Almost. Rethkale's eyes narrowed. That was not random. The officer swallowed. "No, Commander. It was structured." "Could it be a weapon?" someone asked. Rethkale shook his head slowly. "No. Weapons shout. This whispers." The science officer studied the data deeper. It carries no coordinates, no demand, no language. "Then what is it?" an officer asked. Rethkale answered without hesitation. "A knock." Silence filled the room. On Earth, the humans waited. No cheers, no countdowns, no celebration. They watched the data streams like hunters watching still water. Seconds passed. Minutes. Hours. Then a small fluctuation appeared. Not in the signal. In space itself. One scientist leaned forward. There. The fluctuation vanished almost instantly. But it was enough. They noticed, someone whispered. A military officer crossed his arms. Or it was coincidence. The lead scientist shook her head. Coincidence doesn't hesitate. Back on the alien ship, tension spread like a living thing. "Commander," an officer said carefully, "human signal analysis capability is limited. They should not know we reacted." Rethkale stared at the stars. "They don't need to know. Then why send it?" Rethkale turned slowly. "Because predators test reactions before revealing themselves." The word predator hung heavy in the air. Another officer asked a question no one wanted to voice. "Commander, are they testing us?" "Yes," Rethkale said, "and we failed the first test." The fleet shifted slightly, trying to correct, but the damage was done. On Earth, the reaction was immediate. They did not see ships. They did not see weapons. They saw hesitation. And hesitation meant something very important. Fear. A young analyst spoke softly. "They're cautious." A general nodded. "Good." The analyst looked at him. "Good." "Yes," the general said. "Cautious predators don't strike blindly." "But they still strike," someone added. The general smiled thinly. "So do we." The next move came from Earth again. Not a signal. A silence. All probes stopped transmitting at once. Not dead. Listening. Space went quiet. Too quiet. Rethkale felt it instantly. "They've gone dark," the sensor officer said. Rethkale's claws tightened. "No, they've gone still." "What's the difference?" the officer asked. Rethkale answered slowly. "Stillness is not absence. It's readiness." The alien fleet held position. Minutes stretched, then hours. Then something subtle happened. Space began to change. Not violently. Carefully. Human probes adjusted their positions just enough to form a loose net. No tight formations. No obvious patterns. But from Rethkale's perspective, every escape route began to close. "They are shaping the space," the science officer whispered. "Yes," Rethkale said, "like hunters guiding prey." An officer protested. "Commander, we have superior technology. We can break through easily." Rethkale looked at him sharply. "And confirm hostility?" The officer fell silent. Rethkale understood now. Humans were forcing a choice. Either reveal themselves as aggressors, or remain silent and be mapped. On Earth, the tension was just as thick. A scientist stared at the probe network simulation. "They're moving less." A military strategist nodded. "They don't want to be seen." "Then we're winning," someone said. The strategist shook his head. "No, we're learning." "Learning what?" "How a superior intelligence hides." That answer made the room colder. Another signal was prepared. This one even smaller, even quieter. It carried no pattern, only timing. The signal was sent when the probes shifted. If the watchers reacted again, there would be no doubt. Rethkale felt it before the sensors confirmed it. A tiny tremor in space. A delayed adjustment. Almost instinctive. He closed his eyes. "They are hurting us," he said. An officer whispered. Commander, no species has ever done this to us. Ref KO opened his eyes. No species has ever been like them. On Earth, confirmation came quietly. A scientist leaned back, breathing slowly. They responded again. The general nodded. That's enough. Enough for what? Someone asked. The general's voice was calm. To know we're not alone, and that they are afraid to be seen. A younger officer frowned. Or, careful. The general looked at him. Those are the same thing. Humanity did not celebrate. They adjusted. New rules were written. New protocols activated. New projects moved from theory to priority. Not invasion plans. Not weapons. Understanding plans. Because humans knew something important. You don't fight what you don't understand. Ref KL sent another report to the council. His words were direct. Humans have initiated controlled contact without exposure. They are mapping us through reaction analysis. Continued concealment will not stop their progress. The council's reply came faster than before. Recommendation? Ref KAL paused longer than usual. Then he answered, prepare for voluntary contact. The channel went silent. On Earth, the stars looked the same as always. But humanity knew better now. Something was out there. It watched. It reacted. And most importantly, it hesitated. That night, a scientist wrote a note in his private log. They behaved like us did long ago. Careful, observing, afraid to make the first mistake. He paused, then added one more line. That means they already see us as dangerous. Far away, Commander Refkel stared at Earth longer than he should have. The planet was small, fragile-looking, alive, and filled with predators who had learned the most terrifying skill of all, patience. The game had changed. There would be no sudden war, no dramatic first strike, just two predator species circling each other in the dark, learning, waiting, and knowing deep down that when the moment came, it would not be decided by strength, but by who understood the other first. The silence could no longer hold, not because someone broke it, but because both sides now understood what silence meant. On the alien flagship, Commander Rekel stood before a star map that no longer looked empty. Invisible lines crossed it, human probe paths, sensor shadows, zones of probability. Space itself had become crowded with meaning. They are not guessing anymore, the science officer said. They are predicting. Ref KL nodded slowly. Yes, and prediction means confidence. An officer shifted uneasily. Commander, the longer we stay hidden, the more data they collect. And the moment we act, Rekel replied, we confirm their fears. No one spoke. For cycles, the fleet had relied on superiority. Faster drives, better weapons, advanced shielding. Against every species before, that had been enough. But humans were not trying to fight superiority. They were trying to understand it. On Earth, the mood had changed again. Not panic, not excitement, readiness. In deep facilities, teams work without urgency but without rest. Shifts change smoothly. No shouting, no rushing. Every action deliberate. A senior scientist stood before a screen showing probability models. Their movement delay suggests internal debate, she said. A military planner asked, meaning? They're unsure, she replied. Not of us. Of themselves. The planner frowned. Explain. They've never dealt with a species like us, she said. Predators who hide their teeth. The planner allowed a thin smile. Neither have we. The next human move was subtle again. They changed nothing in space. Instead, they changed themselves. A global directive moved quietly through secure channels. Military units adjusted training. Pilots practiced new formations. Cyber teams simulated unknown systems. Engineers reviewed old theories that had once been dismissed as impossible, not because they knew what the aliens could do, but because they knew what predators did when cornered. On the alien ship, RefKL received an internal report. Commander, the behavioral analyst said, human media output has shifted. RefKL turned. Explain. They are producing stories. Art, fiction, but the themes are consistent. Which themes? Watchers, first contact, silent observers, and humans surviving. RefKL felt a chill. They are preparing their minds. Yes, the analyst said, normalizing the idea. Of us, of danger, that disturbed RefKL more than weapons ever could. A species that imagined survival before conflict survived. Another alert chimed. Commander, the sensor officer said, human probes have stopped adjusting. RefKL's eyes narrowed. Stopped. Yes, they are holding position. The star map showed it clearly. The invisible net had gone still. They're waiting, an officer whispered. RefKL understood immediately. They're inviting a move. On Earth, the decision room was quiet. A general leaned back. If they don't respond now, they never will. A scientist replied, or they respond when they're ready. The general nodded. Either way, the next action won't be accidental. A young officer asked, do we send a message? The room went still. The lead scientist answered carefully. No words yet. Why? The officer asked. Because words can lie, she said. Physics can't. Back in space, RefKL made his choice. Prepare a controlled reveal, he ordered. The room reacted instantly. Commander, an officer asked sharply. A partial energy bloom, RefKL continued. Brief, non-lethal, no weapons, no approach. You want them to see us? Someone asked. Yes, RefKL said. On our terms. The science officer hesitated. They will learn from it. They already are, RefKL replied. This just accelerates the inevitable. The fleet adjusted, power rerouted, shield stabilized. A single ship moved forward, not toward Earth, but sideways, enough to be noticed. On Earth, alarms did not sound, but instruments lit up. A technician whispered. Something just appeared. The room froze. Data poured in. Energy readings. Shape distortions. Patterns that did not match anything human-made. A scientist's hands trembled slightly as she zoomed in. It's deliberate. A general asked quietly, hostile? No, she replied. Measured. Silence fell. For the first time in human history, proof stood before them. Not imagination. Not belief. Fact. They want us to see them, the general said. Yes, the scientist replied, but not touch. On the alien ship, RefKL watched the human response closely. No missiles launched. No probes rushed forward. No panic. Instead, human sensors refined. Algorithms adjusted. Eyes focused. Pupils dilated. Predator focus. They're calm, an officer said nervously. RefKL answered softly. So are we. Minutes passed. Then something unexpected happened. The humans mirrored the move. A single probe adjusted position. Not closer. Not farther. Sideways. Matching the alien ship's vector. RefKL felt his breath catch. They're acknowledging, the science officer whispered. Yes, RefKL said. Without words. On Earth, a scientist smiled slowly. They notice. A general nodded. And they didn't run. The probe held position. So did the alien ship. Two predators, facing each other in the dark. Neither attacking. Neither retreating. Learning. RefKL opened a private channel to the council. Contact has begun, he reported. Limited. Controlled. Humans responded with restraint. The council's reply was cautious. Assessment. RefKL did not answer immediately. He watched Earth's small probe, floating bravely in the void. They are disciplined, he said finally, and they understand signaling. Threat level? The council asked. RefKL closed his eyes briefly. Rising, he said, but not hostile. On Earth, discussions exploded. They're testing us, one voice said. We passed, another replied. A scientist raised a hand. No, this is not a test. Then what is it? A conversation, she said. Without language, the general exhaled slowly. Then what do we say next? The scientists looked at the data. We listen. Hours passed. No movement. No aggression. Just shared presence. On the alien ship, tension slowly shifted into something else. Respect. RefKL felt it himself. These humans were not reckless. They were careful, which meant if war ever came, it would be terrible. Finally, RefKL gave a new order. Prepare translation models, he said. Not for language. The science officer looked confused. Then for what? For behavior, RefKL replied. For intent. On Earth, a similar conversation happened. We don't know what they'll say, a young officer said. The general replied, but we know how they act. The officer nodded. And that tells us enough. The alien ship dimmed its energy bloom slightly. The human probe adjusted again. Tiny changes. Mutual understanding growing piece by piece. That night, many humans could not sleep. Not from fear. From focus. They stared at the stars with wide eyes. Watching. Thinking. Planning. Commander RefKL remained at his post long after his officers left. He watched the small human probe. So fragile. So bold. And he understood the truth now fully. Humanity was not trying to win. They were trying to know. And once they knew, they would never forget. The galaxy had not met humans yet, but it had just been measured by them. The final step was coming. Not war, not peace, but something far more dangerous. Understanding. And once that door opened, there would be no closing it again.